Hey guys, welcome back to Let's Talk Movies. I'm Brad,
Not Miguel.
and this is the 22nd episode of our show. We're talking Spiral from the Book of Saw and Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead. Yeah, so we both saw Spiral in the movie theater together about a week ago, and we watched Army of the Dead yesterday on Netflix. So they were both pretty fun movies. I liked them both. Whole lot to talk about with both of them though. There were things that I really liked, and there were things I was like, I don't know. So we're gonna get there.
Yeah.
But how are you doing?
Doing good, man. I can't wait to talk about these two movies. Yo, these two movies actually for me, I know a lot of people. Start like talked about some hate for them. For me, they were pretty dope. So I can't wait.
I liked them. I genuinely liked both of them, for very different reasons. They were two very different films, and there were some things that I think I could have done without or that I would have changed. But again, I mean, we'll get into those. I really did. I thought they were two really solid movies, and I had a good time watching both of them. They're definitely two that I will say I'll want to rewatch. Especially Army of the Dead, because there was a lot packed into a 2.5 hour long movie.
Yeah.
It was just a lot going on. So even visually, that movie had a whole lot to it. So I'm going to want to go back and kind of unpack that a little bit more.
Which one?
Army of the Dead.
Oh, okay. Yeah. We'll definitely have to watch that one again.
For sure. What are you drinking tonight?
Water.
Fun.
Yeah, your boy can't drink right now. It's Sunday.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair. My allergies have been kicking my ass lately, so if you see me kind of...
Hence the drinks.
If you
Hence
see
the
me having
mojito.
yes, I'm drinking a mojito right now. We've been growing mint in our garden, and we have 2 pots of mint that are just I mean, mint is growing like crazy. So I have a whole bunch of sprigs of mint.
Can you
I made
sound
us
more
mojitos.
married? Can you
I
sound
know.
any more married, my guy?
It's
Growing
okay.
mint?
I like growing all of our stuff.
Oh, I'm sure you do. I can't wait too. Whenever I'm
Oh, it's awesome.
50.
It really is cool growing your own vegetables and stuff. It's pretty cool.
I'm glad.
But yeah, I'm drinking a mojito. So.
And that's from your garden.
It is from my garden.
Damn.
Now the rum is not from my garden. The rum's from the liquor store down the street. But
oh my god! If one day you told me that you were just making your own liquor, I would fucking lose my shit.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen.
I got a friend that makes his own beer, and even when I first heard that, I thought that was weird as fuck. But granted, he makes pretty solid beer, so
really?
stay tuned. He may be commercialized soon. So,
I've heard of people making their own wine, but I've never seen anybody make their own beer.
Okay, and last thing I need
That's
is
strange.
Last thing I need you is smashing grapes with your bare foot. Don't do that. Don't do that shit.
I've heard of people making wine though.
I won't drink it. I'm not even a wine guy. I can't remember myself drinking wine. I'll probably drink what's it called?
If I'm gonna drink wine, it's got to be sweet wine. I don't like bitter. I'm not a bitter wine person. It's got to be something sweet.
I just don't like wine. Point blank. I'm sorry if that means I have terrible taste. Then sure, I got terrible taste. I'll take a Budweiser over a fucking, I don't know, red wine. I don't know.
No,
like I said, I can't even like say the names.
I think it's an acquired taste. I do.
I'm sure it is. Someone will put me on it soon.
Yeah. What'd you watch this week?
Spiral and Army of the Dead, my guy.
That was it. Those were the only 2 things.
No, I mean I'm rewatching Game of Thrones just because why not? Yeah.
Cool.
Well, actually, no. I'm actually watching it full through for the first time because Game of Thrones was one of those TV shows where I just knew the story and I watched a shit ton of YouTube videos.
Of course, as you always do.
Yeah, as I always do. Well, I can't. Back then, I couldn't afford any of those fucking subscriptions.
Yeah.
So I said no. Anyways, yeah, I'm watching it straight through now, and it's cool. There's a lot of like different stuff I didn't know that were happening, and there's like some information that I was wondering that came out. So I was like, okay, cool. I vibe with this. Obviously, there's a case like if you're trying to get someone on Game of Thrones, it's gonna be tough. Like for you, instance, Like I know that you don't watch Game of Thrones mainly because you hate that
Yeah,
medieval shit, but
I've I've tried.
there's
My wife loved it. Our buddy Chris loved it. I
that's
mean, there's so many people that
surprising.
adore that series, but I just can't do it. Julia's tried to get me to watch it so many times, and
It's like
I,
the first two
I don't know.
seasons. It's like the first two seasons is just it's not dry, but I could tell why I can understand why people would be distaste of that show, without a doubt.
Mm,
But through the next couple of next for the rest of the seasons, they it just knocks it out of the park, every single one of them.
yeah,
And
I'll
I
tell you,
yeah, what?
we I started Breaking Bad finally. We finished the X Files, and I finally started Breaking Bad. That's another series that I never watched. I had seen bits and pieces, but I never actually sat down and watched it. Um, my cousin told me it was really good. Julia watched it. She told me, I mean, so many different people said that it was like amazing.
Hmm.
And I'm on season 2, I think episode 2 or 3. It's amazing. I'm in love with that show right now. Like I'm kind of pissed at myself that I never actually just like sat down and watched it. It's Vince
Well,
Gilligan, the same guy who wrote the X Files, wrote that show.
oh really?
And yeah, and I completely see why. Like it's the level of suspense, and like it keeps you guessing, and it's kind of like you have to click play to the next episode. Like you can't not watch the next one.
Hmm.
It's like that same kind of feeling that I had with the X Files when I watched it through the first time.
Mm.
Of course, we just finished the X Files. It's kind of funny we're watching them back to back, and Vince Gilligan wrote both of those series. He's such a good writer.
Do you know there's one thing I always kept thinking about? It's like those of us people that like watch these TV series that people love and they're starting to get really late in life, like they're the lucky ones because these shows like they aired like every week
I
or
know.
every weeknight and they had to
Yeah.
wait a week for a new episode. Us,
Well,
we get to just stream the shit out of it. We could binge
yeah.
watch it all day.
See, the X Files was a little bit different because I actually watched the last 2 seasons week to week because when the revival happened and they did seasons 10 and 11, um, that I was like, that's what got me into it because I saw the trailer for season 10 and I was like, what the hell
Mm.
is like I had heard of it, I knew what it was, but I never really like got into it. And my dad loved the X Files. I mean, it was like he was on his couch like on Sunday nights or whenever the X Files came on, um, and even our buddy Mark, he they were big fans of it, and just I mean they were all big fans, and my dad was like, you got to watch the show, and it was all on Netflix at the time, and I sat one summer, I think it was in between um, the my freshman and sophomore year of college, maybe during the
Yeah.
summer. I just sat and binged that show. I watched like 8 episodes a day. Like I just went nonstop. It was awesome, and I loved it. I mean, it's in my top 5 like favorite series of all time. So it's up there with The Walking Dead.
I guess I have to give it a shot.
It's a
That way we,
lot though.
yeah, that
I
way we
mean,
have to.
like it's a lot. So I don't. I think it's only on Hulu now. It's not
I
on
mean,
Netflix.
it's kind of the same with Game of Thrones because I shit you not, like how can I put this right? If you're not like consistently watching and you just watch a random episode, you can't get into it because there's so
Yeah.
many shit going on, and you have to be like, well, "What's that doing there?" and who's that guy?" and blah blah blah
Well,
blah.
the thing with the X Files is it's like that through seasons where like you know it basically there's the main storyline, but there's like extra episodes thrown in. Like the main premise is about aliens and like Mulder trying to like uncover the truth about like the government hiding the fact that aliens exist and stuff. But there's also like random monster episodes thrown in and ghost episodes. I mean, it's all like kinds of paranormal, weird, out there stuff, like trying to investigate the unknown. And it's thrown in there. And I mean, it's part of what makes it such a good show is like there's the main storyline, but there's also all kinds of other shit thrown in there that just makes it fun. But
Mm.
it's an amazing show. But I've been in love with Breaking Bad so far.
Has has
It's a different vibe than The Walking Dead than the X Files, but it's definitely a Vince Gilligan TV show.
has Bill Burr been introduced in it yet?
I don't know who that is, so
Okay, cool.
so no.
All right, cool. One of my favorite comedians, Bill Burr, is in it. Yeah, he's funny. So
Okay, dude,
that's it's one of the only reasons why I wanted to watch Breaking Bad, just to see him in it.
Tuco freaked me out. Do you remember Tuco?
Who is Tuco?
He was the drug lord that they got into with at the beginning. He died now. I think he died in
Like,
the
I haven't seen the show.
season. Oh, you haven't watched Breaking Bad?
No, I haven't seen it.
Oh, okay. I thought you had seen Breaking Bad.
No, I just mentioned Bill because like he talks about it all the time how he was like so in love with that show, and he talked to his like manager and he was like, I will play anything. I'll be the guy carrying the meth into the truck. Just let
Right.
me be in that movie. And he got in the movie. He
That's
said he's
cool.
a complete dick, but he's pretty funny.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, hopefully I'll well, I know now that it's summer, I'll be able to I'll actually watch some more stuff. I have a couple of things on my shelf that I bought like a collector's edition of, but I haven't gotten a chance to watch yet. So it'll be nice to just be off and at home and to be able to just sit and like take a day and just watch stuff. So that'll be fun.
Must be nice being a teacher. You get a summer vacation.
Well, summer vacation is basically just all the time, the overtime we put in.
Yeah.
And we're cashing out on that overtime. That's basically what summer vacation is.
I gotcha.
But it'll be a good time. So, all right, let's review these two things.
All right, let's go Spiral.
You want to do Spiral first? All right, so let's talk Spiral. I'm going to go ahead and issue a spoiler warning. So if you have not seen Spiral, I would suggest going and watching that movie and then coming back. We'll still be here later. So we are going to be talking spoilers in this review / discussion. So from what I understand, Chris Rock was a huge Saw fan. He was a huge fan of the franchise, and he went to the studio and he was like, "Hey, I have this really, really cool idea. It's along the lines of Seven, if you've seen that film before. I know you have." And he ended up writing or co-writing and starring in the movie, which was pretty cool. I was never really a big fan of the Saw franchise, to be completely honest. I'm not a torture porn guy. And you can attest to that because we were sitting in the movie theater, man, and during some of them trap scenes, I was
swear,
like, "Oh!"
I'm over here like watching because like guys, I'm not like a hardcore Saw fan. Again, I'm not like a huge horror fan, but like when I like my brothers were a fan of the Saw movies, so I always saw them, and I always grew up watching all the Saw movies, and all of them were scary in their own rights. But yeah, there's a lot of torture porn in there.
There is.
So whenever the beginning of the movie, like whenever I'm watching it, and here comes the first
The tongue trap.
yeah, the tongue trap. I looked at Brad, and all I saw was his hand go like this, and I was like, "Brad, you good?" He was like, "Yeah, man, I'm just not into it." I was like, "Dude, why'd you invite me to this fucking movie?" Because it was this guy's idea to come watch this movie. I mean, I was cool to watch it on the streaming service, but we started watching in the movie theaters. So when it started, I could tell right away this man was going to be squeamish during the whole movie. Well, during the traps, which, by the way, the traps weren't as gruesome, which I'm sure people that have seen the horror
They weren't as gruesome. What the hell are you talking about?
If you saw, look,
I know some of the Jigsaw ones are pretty bad.
The actual Saw movies, they get really, really in deep, and this one wasn't as like gruesome as the other ones. I mean, the tongue one was pretty fucked up. I'm not gonna lie.
I think that was the worst one. I think all of the other ones I was like, okay, like I was fine, but the tongue one. That one got me. I don't know, anything like Saw, Hostel, The Human Centipede, just like they just, I don't know, it goes like a toe over the line for me. Like I can watch Leatherface like saw somebody's leg off. Like I can do gore. Like I can do some pretty crazy gore, but the I don't know if it's the way the Saw films are like filmed, that like real flashy camera angles and things like that. I don't know if I don't know. It's just I'm not. I've never been a big torture porn guy. And I'm a horror fan, but it's never done it for me.
We talked about this like after the movie because you kept telling me about how much you were not a fan of that, and I was like, I remember I was like, Brad, the reason why you don't like it is because, or you're not a fan of it, is because it's like you can't get out scenario. Like it's a trap. Like you have to do whatever the deed says, or else you're gonna die. Either you suffer an immense amount of pain, or you die, as compared to like a slasher flick where like you could either run up the stairs, run in the basement, run outside. You could run, but when you're in a trap, there's nowhere to go. You either take punishment or you just die, and that's pretty much You agree though, right? Like I
I,
remember I talked to you about that.
I do agree, but that's actually a good segue. Let's talk about the traps first off,
Okay.
um, because again, I mean, you're watching a Saw movie. That's the traps are part of what you're there for.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, if you look back at the franchise, if you look at Jigsaw's MO, the OG Jigsaw's MO, the traps were meant to teach you a lesson. And I mean, don't get me wrong, uh, it tested how much you wanted to live and how much you wanted to turn your life around. Um, but
It was
in a
it was a fucked up rehabilitation,
Yeah, in a
pretty
weird,
much.
sick way,
Yes.
Jigsaw wanted you to, like, he didn't want you to die. Like, he wanted you to survive, and whether you had to cut your own limb off or rip your skin apart or whatever, that was your permanent reminder of, like, hey, I gotta get my shit together, gotta get my life on track.
Yep.
This guy's traps were not escapable in the same way
They
that
seem like
Jigsaw's were.
no-win scenarios.
They
Cause
they
like,
were no win scenarios.
hmm and I know that was like one thing. I don't remember which movie it was, but I remember Jigsaw. Kramer was like really against whoever the copycat at the time was doing that. It was like he was creating no-win scenarios, and it was I don't remember, but I know he was not a fan of that because that was always his MO. Like he made these traps to capture these like really like messed up people and like teach them the wrongs of their ways, and then they leave with like major scars, but they leave with a
Yeah.
messed up way of enlightenment, and
You you have to
it's
let a
by
part of
far,
yourself
yeah,
go in order to survive that.
exactly. But with these, like I get the whole like the way they were explaining the traps. It
Hmm.
was pretty self-explanatory. It was like, do this and you survive. If you don't, this happens and then you die. But every single time I saw those scenes, it was always like, well, even if they did it, they weren't going to get out. Because take for the train, for instance, how is he going to get out? Like even though
Yeah,
he ripped his tongue out and he fell to the ground, he wasn't going to get away from that train.
right.
And then whenever you look at the one with the fingers, there wasn't enough time for him to do that. Like you can saw that. Like as soon as the game started, he bit down hard. He was like, just take it, just take my fingers. But then like even though it took a while for the machine to work, and
It
then he just
did.
died. And then with what's her name with the I forgot the lieutenant.
The
Whatever.
wax.
Yeah, the
Oh,
wax. Yeah, I was
God,
like,
see,
there was
man, I don't know.
that one
It
right
was like
there.
waterboarding with wax.
Yeah.
Like,
Like, how are you gonna be
oh,
able to get yourself out of that? There is
you
no way.
can't. Well, and that's the whole thing, The first one, the tongue trap was the one that really got me because first of all, I mean, you got to think your tongue isn't just a little part you can stick out of your mouth. Like your tongue is a huge muscle that
Hmm.
goes back into your throat. Even if he would have let his body rip his tongue out, again, you can't escape the train. Um, the timing with the finger trap with the little finger things was not
Hmm.
little finger things.
Yeah.
There wasn't enough time for him to escape. The other one that got me was the glass grinder. Oh,
Oh yeah, I forgot about the glass grinder. That was,
oh,
ooh,
oh.
that was rough. Cause
Yeah,
like
Dunleavy.
also
Dunleavy, that was his name.
by the way, whoever the fuck created that machine for like its actual purpose is dumb as fuck. Who the fuck puts glass into a shredder
That's that
and then
HIPAA
shoot?
violation waiting to happen.
Yeah, yeah, OSHA.
Oh shit, yeah.
Let me call OSHA real quick and get that shit taken care of. 'Cause that was a huge OSHA violation.
Yeah,
It just goes into a grinder and shoots out. Boy, what? What? That is a huge
yeah,
OSHA violation, and I completely will report that.
right.
And yeah, that was a really messed up one too. That was no win as well, so to speak. I guess no. If you think about it, he probably could have, but it's just yeah, I don't know. This one, like this Jigsaw copycat killer, was definitely there just to kill. It wasn't
He
there to
was,
rehabilitate
and his soul. I
at
mean,
all.
again, I think they had two different purposes. One of my favorite lines in the entire movie is at the end climax when Zeke's got the gun pointed at Sheik. Is that what his name was?
Zeke.
No, not Zeke. The killer, Shank,
Oh,
Shank, something like that.
Shink, yeah.
Shank, yeah. I'm not sure exactly how you pronounce it. But when
Which,
he
by
had
the
the
way,
gun pointed at the copycat, and
yeah,
he looked at him and he said, "You're not Jigsaw." Like that was, I think that was even Zeke making the connection. Like you're not Jigsaw. Like Jigsaw was wrong, and the way Jigsaw went about trying to teach people these lessons was wrong, even if they were criminals.
mm-hmm.
But again, this guy didn't want the cops to survive. He didn't want to give them a second chance.
Not at all.
Jigsaw wanted to give you your second chance. You were just going to horribly scar yourself as a reminder of you have to start making the right decisions in life, or you know
Or he's just gonna catch
that's
you
your
again. Yeah,
reminder. I don't know if
yeah,
he'd catch you again, but that's your reminder. You know what I mean? If you know that you sawed your own arm off to get out of something, then that's your reminder of like, okay, that's why my arm is gone. I have to
yeah,
start living a reputable life.
yeah.
And I loved
Which,
it when Zeke said, "You're not Jigsaw."
yeah, I thought that was a pretty like pivotal moment because it was pretty
As the
much it
Jigsaw
was
music was playing, I thought that was dope.
yeah, the Jigsaw music. Oh my goodness, we could talk about the music in this
When
movie
that
too.
theme, dude, the soundtrack slapped.
This-
Let's be completely honest, it really slapped.
yeah, I remember. I think it was the first song that came out. I think it was the one with 21 Savage,
It was
and I
called
looked at
Spiral, yeah.
yeah, I looked at Brad. And I was like, "Yo, this movie about to bop right now. I swear, we about to go live right now in this song."
It
And
was
then,
good.
yeah. So let's. I want to talk about Chris Rock real quick because I was really surprised with his acting chops at the beginning of the movie,
I was
as it
too.
it surpasses, or not doesn't surpass it, but it steers away from his usual mo. You know what I mean? Chris Rock is more like
Yeah.
he's a comedian,
He's a
and you
comedian,
don't yeah you
absolutely.
don't see him in many.
I think when you think Chris Rock, you think his comedy.
Hmm.
I think that's pretty goes for pretty much anybody.
Yeah,
I was actually very pleased and very impressed with Chris Rock's performance in this movie.
yeah.
Um,
And there's a saying that comedians, there's a saying a comedian said. I forgot who it was. I think it was Jerry Seinfeld. He said, comedians can become great actors. Actors cannot become great comedians. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like there's a certain level that comedians can go that's what that can surpass, a typical trained uh
for sure.
actor. And I think that goes to show with Chris Rock because the amount of range he has from doing comedic stuff to doing some emotional
Hmm.
dramas, which I'm sure he was in some, to this horror one. I think he did a really good job, trying to be someone, trying to be a good detective, but also not live up to whatever legacy his father, Samuel Jackson, which I didn't know Samuel Jackson was going to be the father.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was surprised by that because when this trailer came out, I was like, Samuel Jackson's got to be like one of the antagonists in this movie, but it turns out he really isn't. He was actually, well,
Well,
he kind of was,
he kind of was to an extent because he
yeah,
was, in a way, he was just as dirty as all the other cops because he let them get away with it.
yeah. So
And
we
I
we
think
we.
that was kind of the point of the killer leaving Marcus up
Mm-hmm.
until the end with the IV drip thing, which again,
Yeah,
I
that was
mean,
that was kind of rough.
that was a rough one too.
Yeah,
Uh,
we could talk about the whole like storyline, the whole big twist at the end
yeah,
because that one is just huge.
I
But
wanted to get there too. But yeah, Chris Rock, man, I was very pleased with his performance. I think,
mhm,
when there were comedic elements to it, and of course, in a movie like this, you have to have comedic elements because you have to relieve that pressure a little bit. It can't
of
just
like
be like
absolute horror,
pedal
yeah,
to the metal the entire time. And honestly, I think this was pretty pedal to the metal the entire time. There wasn't a
it
lot
was.
of breathing room in this movie. And again, like I know a lot of people compared this to Seven, but again, Seven, I think they were along the same lines, but they weren't really the same kind of movie. With Seven, um, there's some brutal shit in Seven. There really is. Like that
Yeah,
movie is a hard R. There is that is a brutal movie. The death scenes, even the scenes where they find people dead, Seven is brutal. But there's breathing room. There's scenes with Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman just like kind of sitting, and their characters are processing what they've seen. They're getting to know each other. They're building that relationship. There's the scenes with Morgan Freeman and Gwyneth Paltrow in the diner. I mean, like, there's breathing room in between the brutal moments in that movie.
Yeah.
This movie really didn't have any breathing room. Like, it was pretty
You
pedal to
were
the metal telling the story the entire time.
you were constantly trying to figure out
Yes,
who this new Jigsaw copycat was,
absolutely.
and it was definitely it was reminiscent of like all the other Saw movies because as the Saw movies go in regards to like how the storyline progresses, it's like there's a couple movies in the franchise where it's like, okay, there's a copycat killer. Well, who is this copycat killer? And like it all begs that question throughout the entire movie until the very end, which I kind of like is whenever they like throw all these answers like, okay, you saw this, well, guess what, it connected this and this and this, and that's why um Detective Sheik was the killer. And I remember when we started the movie and it was talking up and they were saying there's a copycat killer, so it's not Jigsaw, which by the way this movie plays after Jigsaw's death.
Right. I
Kramer's
was
death, yeah.
shocked to find out that this movie had nothing to do with the previous. I mean, it obviously it's in the same world and it's a copycat killer, but it didn't have, as far as the characters and the lore of the other Saw films, it didn't really
Hmm.
have anything to do with it. My initial thought, and honestly, I don't know that I watched a trailer. I think I saw the final trailer for this.
Hmm.
I didn't watch any of the first ones. But I remember thinking like, shoot, this is going to be one of Jigsaw's victims that has had some kind of PTSD and is coming back to do the same kind of thing. I
Oh
was
sure.
kind of shocked to find out that it really didn't have anything to do with the previous films. It was kind of its own spin, and in a way I almost like that. Like I dug the fact that you could watch this movie without having to watch all of the original Saw films.
Yeah, because you could probably get to where like because the movie did a fair enough job to like explain who John Kramer was as
Yeah.
Jigsaw, and it would make sense as to say like okay, if you're just starting out watching the Saw franchise, I mean I'll probably get some hate from this, but like if this is an all right movie to start the franchise. Obviously, it's not as gruesome as all the other ones.
I think I kind of agree with you though. I
Yeah,
don't think it's a if you've never seen a Saw movie, this is not a bad place to start. Because
yeah,
honestly, it would
because
kind
if
of
you don't
make you
want to
be
be,
like, "Oh shit, what were the original one like? What was the original guy like?"
yeah,
And
exactly.
then I mean, obviously you can start at the beginning and go, obviously 1 and 2 are great. I haven't I don't it's been years since I've seen Jigsaw. Like you said, it's funny because as soon as we walked out of the movie theater, you were like, "We need to watch all the Saw movies." I was like, "Damn, okay." So they're on HBO Max.
Yeah,
We can
that's
watch
true.
them.
It's just I don't know. It's something about this type of like Jigsaw has the Saw movies have a certain theme to it, which is pretty much like who's doing it, like a mystery. And I'm a big fan of those. I love watching a movie where it's like, okay, you got to figure out who's doing it or who's pulling the strings. Kind of like it's like a really gruesome version of Knives Out, pretty much. It's like who did it. And
Yeah.
yeah, so
This one was more like that than the others because, I mean, in the others, it's like maybe the characters don't know what's going on, but as
mhm.
an audience, we know it's John Kramer. We know it's Jigsaw.
Yeah. Well,
You know what's going on.
there was a couple of Saw movies where there were obviously big twists and turns at the
Right.
very end, and that's pretty much what this one did was all leading all the way up to this whole big twist as to show that Detective Sheik was the killer. It was the copycat. Which, by the way, we talked about that at the beginning of the movie when they said, "Okay, Jigsaw's back," and we're like, "No, he ain't. It's a copycat." So you and I like decided who it could have been, right?
Yeah, well, and that's I'm glad you brought that up too because, like you said before, this was a constant guessing game
Hmm.
as to who it actually was. I saw quite a few people in Killer Flicks and on Facebook and Instagram, and YouTube that had said that they were like, "Oh, I guessed the killer in the first 20 minutes," and I was like, I actually didn't. Like it kind of took me. I guessed two or three, maybe even four or five people before. My first initial thought, I was like, it's the chief. It's Angie Garza. I
Yeah,
was
I
like,
thought it was
it's
too for
definitely
like a hot
Angie,
second.
because she knew everything. She knew about Jigsaw.
Hmm.
She would have known everything that you needed to know to be the one doing the killings. You know, if it's somebody going after dirty cops, which is another thing that I wanted to bring up, how well they did the dirty cop thing.
Hmm.
You know, if you were somebody that needed to know all of those things to do the killings, she was that person. And honestly, that was really creative because it kind of made her death all the more like, whoa. Like I was kind of like, oh crap. Like
Yeah,
it's
I
not
was
her. Um yeah,
my initial thought was it was Captain Angie Garza, and but I remember you mentioned Detective Sheik, who ends up being the killer. I remember you brought him up, and I was like, "Ooh, I'm pretty sure," but I'm gonna stick with mine as the lieutenant, as the captain, and because I was telling you throughout the movie, I was like, "Watch, I'll be able to pinpoint every single time where it's gonna come back in the end of the movie," and it was because you remember the phone. You remember the time when he said, "Oh, my phone died. I gotta go."
yeah.
Yeah, I told you. I bumped you. I was like, "Hey, look, remember that? Remember that? I'm
Oh,
pretty
I
sure it's
remember
gonna
you
come back."
said when he was like, "Can I borrow your phone?" and Chris Rock was like, "Yeah, don't look at porn or whatever on it." And you were like, "That's weird. That's weird." You were like, "Nobody does that. That's weird."
Yeah, yeah. No one,
um,
nobody says that. So that was definitely a planted seed right there. But
there was
I am
a
so glad that uh Captain Garza was kind of like a red herring.
yeah.
Same for Marcus Banks, Samuel L. Jackson's character. He was a red herring as well because I thought he was the killer's pretty
Well,
soon.
let's talk about Samuel L. Jackson's character for a minute because there was a good 20 minutes of the movie. I thought Marcus Banks was going to be the killer.
Because
I
he was
really did.
MIA. Yeah, he
Well,
was
and he
MIA.
was honestly. If I'd be curious to look at like the running time and like actually like look at the numbers because Samuel L. Jackson was not really in this movie very
Not
much.
really.
He really wasn't. He was. I mean, he was in it at the beginning when he's talking to Zeke in the apartment, and then he was in a couple of the flashbacks. But other than that, and of course at the end when the big reveal happens and he's in the IV drip trap. Um, but really, other than that, like you said, he was kind of MIA. We didn't really know what was going on with him.
Yeah.
Uh, so I was like, is he the killer? I thought that maybe Detective Fitch was gonna be. I don't know. I really did. I went through a couple different people. At first, I was like, it's got to be Shank or Sheik or whatever his name is. I was like, it's got to be Shank. And then I
Because
was
he
like,
came out of,
no, he's too nice. They're not gonna do that. They're gonna kill him off. And
which is
that's gonna
where,
be like Chris Rock's breaking point of like, okay, you killed my friend. That's it.
yeah, yeah. Well, I remember whenever when his like supposed death came when he was like in the meat locker,
Yeah.
and you were saying you looked at me, I was like, well, he's out of the question. I was like, don't say that
You
because
did. I will
I
say
was
you
like,
you called this movie better than I did. I will say
yeah,
that.
because I called it he because at the end whenever he explained how he's able to fake his death, he pretty much just said like well the crackhead in the beginning of the movie, like he killed a
Yeah, yeah,
crackhead
yeah,
and
yeah.
just tattooed his father's name right there and just filleted him.
That's
And
fair.
which, by
Flayed.
the way,
Oh my
was
god.
he really did. He filleted that dude like full head.
Oh,
And yeah, that was pretty gruesome too, by the way.
oh
But
yeah.
so whenever that happened, whenever I knew that he was when it showed the dead body, I was like, there's no way this man's dead. Now that he's dead, he can actually go around and like do things more yeah,
Inconspicuously.
more conspicuously. And I don't know, just the way he was acting and the way he was saying things really pinpointed to the point, or really pinpointed him as being the Jigsaw, because again, at the end of the movie, whenever he's telling his whole shebang, it did the typical Jigsaw like quick cuts to different little scenes, and it was
Yeah.
connecting the dots. I remember I looked at you and I was like, called it, called it,
Yeah.
called it. I said, yo man, give me a badge, call me Detective Miranda. fuck out of
Well,
here.
so but before we talk about the end of the film, because that was the part where I was kind of like, I don't know. I remember we had talked about this as soon as we walked out of the theater. This film was a little bit anti-cop.
Yo,
Little, just like a little, just little.
straight.
We were talking about Breaking Bad earlier. Just a little tinge of like chili powder in there, like just
It
a little bit.
was it was straight. Pardon my French. It was straight ACAB. If you guys know what that is, you know what I'm talking about. It was straight ACAB, which again, we don't have to get involved in the whole storyline of all that that's happening in these times. But as this movie, it depicts that really hard because the reason why Detective Shink is doing it is because he's upset. He was torn apart. His family was destroyed from this bill. I forget what it's called. What was it called?
Article 8. Article 8.
Yeah, Article 8, which pretty much gave that Metro Police Station free reign to do whatever they deem necessary to clean up the streets, no matter how dirty or slimy it was.
And then they would lie about it.
They would lie about it.
I mean, I'll say this: it did a very good job of making the cops seem like some crooked douchebags.
Yes.
I mean, you had Dunleavy who killed the witness to save himself, of course, which was kind of the big reveal in the flashback. Which I don't know if you caught on to this. I kind of thinking about it afterwards. I was kind of like, that doesn't make sense. Some of the flashbacks, you have to think the flashback is from Chris Rock's perspective, and it kind of like revealed information that Chris Rock didn't know or like he wasn't there for. So the flashbacks were kind of strange a couple of times. I noticed that like kind of as I was thinking about it.
He didn't know what.
Like the one flashback,
Brock.
The one flashback, Chris Rock leaves the room, but the flashback is still going on. So it's like, how would he know that? I mean, and again, it's a movie. I get it. It's a movie.
Yeah, I got you.
That's reading too far into it. Mm-hmm. But you had Boz who lied on the stand numerous times. Mm-hmm. Dunleavy, he was the one that they went to at the church a few times. He was in like AA meetings or something like that. And the big flashback in the reveal, he killed a witness to save himself. Mm-hmm. Was it Fitch, the one who shot the guy who flipped him off in the car?
It was Fitch. They're like, that
kind of stuff. Like they did a really good job of making this seem like a terribly crooked police force. They really did. And that bode well for the film.
Yeah, it showed it pretty much. Like, it wasn't just the fact that there were dirty cops in that department. It was the fact that it was wholeheartedly, systematically, like corrupt. Like, it came from the higher up. Like, it came from a bill and the whole ass command that tiered all the way down to Detective Banks, Chris Rock's character. Like, it was all throughout the system. It was wholeheartedly corrupt. And
Marcus Banks and Angie Garza played into that. Like,
yeah. They were in the whole thing.
Even if they didn't directly do anything wrong, they let it happen. And I think that was Sheik's point in doing the IV drip and in killing them and including them in the traps, was that like, you let this happen. Like, you were two people that could have stopped it, but you just let it continue under Article 8 and you chose to cover all this crap up. So that was why he included them.
And it was I don't know, this movie, it was hilarious to a certain point because it broke so many like horror norms. You know what I mean? Because like,
in what way? What do you mean?
So take for Chris Rock's whenever he was in his initial trap, when he was like handcuffed to the guardrail, and like all he had
was a fake out trap.
That was let's be honest though. It was like, okay, he would, like anybody else in a horror movie, would have said, okay, I gotta cut my hand off. And he was about to do it, but then he looked around and guess what? There was a safety pin and he just picked that shit up and he was good. And whenever
that was a callback to the OG, to the first Saw film too. Yeah.
And that was props to you guys. And then whenever Detective Shink was trying to convince Chris Rock's character to go with him, and the usual typical MO, they would have like disagreed and said no, and then they would have seen the trap. But Chris Rock was like, okay, sure, because he was thinking 2 steps ahead, trying to see how far he can go with this to get him caught. Yeah. And I thought that was so cool because it was it was pulling away from typical norms of what a horror movie is, which again, I'm fairly new to it, but I still try to keep track of like the usual themes of it. And that was like two of them that I noticed that kind of steered away. And I thought that was really neat. Um, One thing that I was really interesting to talk about was like at the very end when Detective Shink gets away. Like, does that play in the part of a possible sequel, or is it just going to be like an anthology kind of thing? Because, in my opinion, I actually like the idea of an anthology. You know what I mean?
An anthology. I'm glad you brought this up because I wanted to talk about the ending. Do you mean an anthology as in obviously Sheik is the killer, um, but of Chris Rock hunting him down, or do you mean an anthology of just Sheik's going to go after a whole new set of people without Chris Rock, without any of the characters? Which really, he killed all the characters that we were really
Yeah,
like
that's what I
acquainted with
mean.
in this film.
That's what I mean. Like everyone that's already been uh needed to be dealt with has been dealt with. So like I don't know. It's like when I think of an anthology with this whole franchise, it's like, okay, John Kramer's gone. Like he's gone 100%. And now it's just like it'd be cool to have a couple more movies where it's just a whole bunch of other different type of copycat killers doing it for their own purpose. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I get what you're saying, but at the same time, it's like, how long can you do that until it's kind of like we've
Yeah,
seen
here
it
comes
before?
another king. Yeah.
Honestly, that was kind of how I felt about the ending of this movie. And, like you had said when we walked out of the theater, they tried to do the typical Saw thing where it's kind of a whodunit and it's kind of a mystery as to like, the different pieces and the plot twists and things like that are building and building and building and building and building and building. And then at the end, it's just like it all is laid out for you in like a quick scene. Just like we saw when Zeke is talking to Shank and his dad is dripping in the IV trap, and things like that. I mean, he's got to decide whether he shoots the spiral or he shoots him. And obviously, that was, kind of a trap in and of itself. Because
Hmm.
if he would have just shot Sheik, I mean, his dad would have died, but he would have caught the killer. But I think his dad was dying anyways. Let's be real. I really
Well,
do. I mean,
he
I
he
think
wouldn't
his
have
dad would have
survived.
died. Do you think he would have survived?
No, he wouldn't have survived
Oh,
any
okay.
longer. He would have been able to, get pulled down and survive a little bit longer. But by the time he would have been able to get help from from
By the
medics,
time he would have gotten more
yeah,
blood or any, I mean,
yeah,
it would have been done.
yeah,
I wish he would have shot Sheik because at least the killer wouldn't have gotten away. At least Zeke would have been able to. Uh, I don't know. At least Zeke would have been able to sleep at night knowing that he stopped the guy who did it. The
yeah. But you
ending
get
for
the.
me. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, but you get like the trouble, like
I
the
know.
conscious struggle he was going through to figure that out.
I know, I get it, and it had a lot of tension, and that wasn't as much my problem. My problem was more when the cops rush in. It felt very abrupt. The ending felt very like thrown together. Honestly, from the point that Chris Rock wakes up in the handcuff and the arm trap and the fake out thing from the glass trap with Dunleavy, I just the ending felt kind of thrown together. I think they could have fleshed out the ending a little bit more, and they
Mm,
could have built a little bit more suspense. Um, Part of the problem is I think uh, the killer just kind of explained it all. Like there was no Chris Rock kind of putting the pieces together and figuring out like, hey, it's you. Like it's been you the whole time. He just kind of explained it all to him, and then they walked in and found his dad, and then Chris Rock had to decide, and then the cops rushed in and he got away and it was over. I felt
yeah,
like the ending could have been a little bit more fleshed out. And I kind of disagree with you a little bit. I think I don't know. I think with a lot of these movies, you have to know, especially with a franchise. I mean, this is what the ninth installment in this franchise. Like, how much more can you go until it feels stale? And I think honestly, I mean, it's like the ending of the original Halloween. Like, I mean, of course, we got the sequels and we love them and whatever, but I mean, like, the original ending when he just gets away and that's supposed to just be the end. Like if the killer could just get away and that tension just doesn't resolve, that kind of gets under your skin and stays with you a little bit more than if you have six other sequels that explain where he went and what he did and exactly what happened after. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So
yeah,
I don't know. I'm kind of on the other side of the fence. I'm okay with not having a sequel to this. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a really decent movie. I thought it was well done. I liked all of the performances. The traps were pretty good. It was a solid movie. I really enjoyed it.
yeah. I agree. I mean, I agree. This was a solid movie. That's what I was gonna say. Like, I think an anthology to a certain degree would honestly work because just to leave him knowing that he's escaped and he's still out there, it just adds more to the suspense. And I was
Yeah.
gonna mention the way how like the way how it ended, how like chaotic it was. It's a typical. It's usually how it goes with
Right.
some Saw movies. Like it's just the way they do it, and it's like pure anxiety. It's like just so many informations coming left and right, and then it all comes down to this whole high point, and then it just stops like out of nowhere. Like when Chris Rock starts screaming, because like let's be honest, I like if I would have seen him, but um the reason why he was able to get away is because he was able to trick the SWAT team into thinking Samuel Jackson was
Had a gun,
well,
and
yeah,
he
had a gun.
yeah
And you were asking me like you asked me like why did he bother like shoot him if he could have saw him if he saw him.
yeah. I also kind of didn't understand why. Like I felt like they would have seen him. Like I felt like they would
Well,
have
that's
understood that something was wrong
well
with that
that's where
whole
the whole like
situation.
that's where the whole like that's why he shined a light just to show the silhouette of him to like perpetuate, it was like a small little undertone about like, how and some of these shootings like the cops can't really see what he was doing,
That's fair.
and the
That's fair.
silhouette is like you can't see it's Samuel Jackson because it's just a
Yeah.
silhouette of him. And if he sees him, raising his hand with a gun, like that's pure shoot and fire and ask questions later. Like
Right. Yeah.
that's exactly what he was trying to do. He was trying to like shift the focus from him to Samuel Jackson, who is obviously just a victim in this current situation,
Right.
and that's how he was able to get away. And I thought that was really it was, golly, this movie was like it was low key touching a lot of like major societal debates right now, like a little bit. It was hitting some moments here and there.
Yeah, it was
Obviously
an
it wasn't.
it was an undertone,
Yeah, it was it
definitely for
was it
sure.
was there were
I
definitely
would
some
say
undertones there.
it was kind of an undertone throughout the entire film.
But as a movie as a whole, I mean, it hits the nail for how a Saw movie would go. Some people would disagree, and I've been reading some reviews of other people about the movie and how they think it's not. It doesn't really hit the nail of like the usual Saw franchise. And if you guys disagree with me, feel free to comment below. Tell me what you guys think because, I mean, as someone that's seen a good portion of the Saw franchise, like it kind of gave me it kind of gave me some nostalgic feelings from watching the previous Saw movies, and the whole aspect of the who did it kind of thing. It raises some callbacks to some of the other Saw movies. So I mean, overall, I mean, this is one of my favorite Saw installments.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think it's one of the better um, installments in the franchise. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really fun movie. Definitely had its issues, definitely had its things that I wasn't so wild about, but it was fun, and I definitely look forward to watching it again.
Hmm.
What's your rating for Spiral?
Yeah, we talked about that like at the end of the movie, and we said we got to take some time to mull it over. I'm curious to see how yours changed, but I might give this one like a 6.5.
I'm gonna go 6.5 too.
Yeah,
That's that.
yeah,
We're in agreement on that. Again, it was one of the better ones in the franchise. I enjoyed it, but it definitely had its issues too. So
yeah,
it was a fun movie. If you take it for what it was at face value, it was a fun movie.
yeah. I 100% agree. And again, Chris Rock did a pretty damn good job with the whole horror movie, and I mean he held it well for himself. I'm not gonna
He
lie.
did.
I
Again,
was
when the comedic aspects of his character, when there was a little bit of comedic relief, He did really well, but he also delivered on the drama and the seriousness of what was going on. So,
Yeah. I wanted to talk about one more thing. What was your what was your F word count in the movie? Because let's
oh
be
my
honest,
god,
guys,
I
when we
forgot
saw this
about that.
movie, I shit you not, like within 20 minutes of this movie, me and Brad
We
looked
were
at
at
each
like
other.
18 f bomb. I mean, it was
Yeah,
a lot. It had to have been over 30. I mean, like, and
yeah,
I mean,
just
dude,
about.
seven is seven's got to be more. Brad Pitt drops at least 30 f bombs in seven. I mean, it's a lot. Like, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, because it was like, I mean, I know I have a profound use of that word in my daily conversation, and even then, even then, I was watching this and I brought up to Brad. I said, "Damn, these guys are using the F word a lot right now." Like I'm over here counting. I'm like I'm showing like my hands up for like this, and Brad's laughing because I'm like, and it was like 8 within 4 minutes. I was like, there
Yeah.
ain't no fucking way they can. I don't know who wrote Josh Stolberg and Pete Goldfinger. My God, my guys, you really went hard on that on those words. I was like, shoo. If that's
It's
how cops
okay.
talk in the office, shoo. But yeah, that right there, I remember I wanted to mention that because that was pretty funny. That was
Yeah,
like one of the
it was
comedic
pretty good.
elements I liked.
Yeah, we had a good laugh about that in the theater.
Hmm.
But yeah, we enjoyed Spiral. We thought it was a pretty damn good movie. Um, and it's definitely, like I said, it's definitely one that I will watch again. And honestly, that'd be a fun commentary marathon to do the Saw films, watching them
Yeah,
in order. That'd be a fun one.
I'll show you. I could
I
show you
would.
like where the whole. I could show you why I like them because again, it's the mystery aspect of the movie. Like I
Yeah,
like those ones where it makes you think. Those movies that make you kind of think like what's going on. I like those.
yeah, I'd like to revisit those. So let's talk Army of the Dead. Uh, we're
Whew.
kind of at the second half of the show. Uh, let's switch gears a little bit and let's talk Army of the Dead. So Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead was way different than I originally expected it to be. This movie for me, I think you and I disagreed on this a little bit, but for me, Army of the Dead kind of felt like Zack Snyder wedged this thing in between a serious zombie drama and a dark comedy. Um, it had elements of both, but it was different. It was like kind of out in left field
Hmm.
from what we traditionally think of as a zombie movie. What were your thoughts on kind of the overall tone and vibe of the movie?
It was so. It was action packed for sure.
Hmm.
Um,
Definitely.
in regards to comedic element, I wouldn't say it, I guess dark humor, I guess sure,
Yeah.
but I mean, I wasn't there laughing my ass off. There were some
Right.
funny moments, but some people were
You
saying
you
it was
you
more of a
chuckled at
comedy.
yourself a
Yeah,
little
I
bit. Yeah.
chuckled a little bit. And for Zack Snyder, I'm not gonna lie, man, I don't get the hate people are having with Zack Snyder because honestly, man, this guy is hitting some. He's hitting some dingers. I have yet to see a Zack Snyder film that I did not like.
I
And for his cinematography or filmography, like he's got some really solid movies out there. And I don't know, it's like I don't get all the hate. He's a pretty solid actor when you talk to him in
actor.
interviews. Sorry, director. But but whenever but when you hear about him in his interviews, he seems like a nice guy. When you hear all the other actors that work under him, all the writers, everyone in the crew, they all say he's a pretty solid guy. Like he has his vision,
Yeah.
he has his goal, but he treats his entire crew like a family. And I don't know, like again, I don't want to beat the dead horse, but when it comes to Warner Bros. And the Zack Snyder feud, like yo, something must have happened. Like again, like I firmly believe there should be a documentary about the whole Warner Bros. And Zack Snyder. 100% believe that like within like 5 years there has to be a documentary series on it because this is
Well,
a really interesting topic because when you see his movies and you hear all the interviews about him about how he is at working like it kind of makes you question like what the hell happened with Warner Bros.
I know. For me, um, again, I'm in the same boat as you. I don't understand why Zack Snyder is getting the hate and the controversy that he is. I think, look, was this movie incredible and groundbreaking? No.
No,
It was fun
it
as
was just yeah.
hell, and I enjoyed it, and I'm gonna buy it on Blu-ray, and I'm gonna add it to my zombie collection because it was really, really fun to watch. But it wasn't Academy Award winning. It
No,
wasn't one of the best films I've ever seen. But this movie proves it's another way of proving that Zack Snyder is such an innovative, interesting writer and director. And I mean, the dude, you have to admit, if anything, the dude has a vision and he has an idea and he can make that vision come to life.
yeah,
Like Zack Snyder, his films just have such depth and such, look at what he did with the zombie lore, which I'm sure we're going to talk about in a few minutes. I mean, like it,
it
it's
went way out of field.
I think the biggest compliment that I can give Army of the Dead is that it's way out in left field. I mean, it's kind of like the whole, even the concept
Mm.
is kind of wild. Like, I say dark comedy because even little things like, when it shows at the beginning of the film when they're putting the cargo carriers and things like that around Las Vegas, like, is that probable? No.
Not
I
really.
mean, like, it's kind of like I almost got Dead Rising vibes if you've ever played that video game, where
Yeah.
it's kind of like it's kind of stupid,
Mm-hmm.
but it works, and it works in the world and the concept that you're building.
Mm-hmm.
And Zack Snyder really did a good job of building his own world. And I would say the same thing with his remake of Dawn of the Dead from 2004. He did a really good job of building a world and playing in that world. I, for one, let's talk about the zombie lore here a little bit and kind of how this fits into other zombie films.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I thought this would be a little bit more along the lines of Dawn of the Dead, his remake from 2004. It really wasn't.
No, it wasn't.
You had Shamblers, which were,
Well,
you
hold
know,
on. I wanted to mention like the moment where I knew it was going way left field. It was whenever they first got in, and what's her name? I forget. Was it Chambers, the coyote?
yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
where she just shot the guy. Which, by the way, fuck him. Yeah, he deserved it. That's 100%. And they were all freaking out. They're like, "What the fuck? What are you doing?" And she was like, "Listen, listen." This is at that moment when she was like, "Listen." I was like, "Okay, we're going somewhere. This is an offering. Okay, these are not your normal zombies." This was Zack Snyder pretty much like explaining, because you know how he always got some heat from his Dawn of the Dead remake when they're like, "Oh, we don't like the whole
The
idea of
running zombies
running
thing,
zombies
yeah.
because of rigor mortis."
This was
And
kind of
then
his like,
yeah, and Zack Snyder, I remember in an interview, Zack Snyder was like, "It's a fucking zombie movie. It's not
like
supposed to be
have a
fun."
little bit of fun with it. Like
Yeah,
let it be weird. If it's weird,
yeah,
let it be weird. Like that's
yeah.
okay.
So whenever she immediately was like, "This is not your typical zombies. Like these there's different levels to this shit. There's different zombies, and we have to give this offering. We have to play by the rules." And I'm over here like, "What? This sounds like Mad Max, where it's like a huge kingdom, and like you got to play by their rules,
Yeah.
or they're a bunch of savages." And I didn't think. Did you catch on that the zombie that got out was the main alpha?
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
got that? Okay,
Uh-huh.
cool. It took
Did
me a
you
while.
not?
It took me a second to
Yeah,
figure it out. I was like,
I knew that
yeah.
was him. There were a few different kind of plays on the tradipical the the typical zombie tropes and traits of zombie lore.
Mhm.
And we talked about this in episode 21 in our previous episode of Let's Talk Movies. Zombies have kind of, you have the original version of what a zombie used to be with the, kind of the voodoo esque Um, it's more of a paranormal type thing.
Yeah.
And then you have the Romero films, which really switched over to the undead corpse flesh eating type thing, and into like what we have now with Dawn of the Dead, 28 Days Later, where they run. And the fun thing about the zombie genre is that
It's
it
ever
can be
evolving.
fun. It's
Yeah.
ever evolving. You can kind of make it what you want, and
Mhm.
it works. Obviously, like I'm a fan of the slow moving or even the running, whether they walk or run or whatever. The flesh eating, they're kind of mindless. They're not, they don't have a motive. They don't talk. They don't communicate. Things like that.
Mhm.
But I didn't mind it in this movie. Like I really didn't. It was fun and it was well done enough. I think I have a problem with zombie movies that don't really explain it at all. But again, Zack Snyder fleshed this thing out. Like it showed how he became the alpha. It showed the shamblers. We had the little tidbits, even the zombies hibernating when they were inside of the building. The zombies again, that's a who the hell ever thought of zombies hibernating? I certainly didn't.
And World War
George
Z,
Romero certainly didn't.
yeah. They
Uh,
mentioned that in World War Z because at the end when when everyone's already either escaped to a remote location or have already been done away with, like when the zombies have no one left to hunt, they kind of just stand idle. They stand still. They
yeah,
just go into hibernation, and that was an interesting take because it kind of goes to show like, well, what happens whenever you quarantine a certain city off that's filled with zombies,
right.
like, and they have no one else to hunt. Like they just stay stagnant. They don't keep walking around.
Did you catch on when they first got in the city? When they run through the little tunnel made out of the cargo freights and things like that, and all of the piles of like dead zombies were sitting there, and she said, wait till it rains. Like they've been sitting in the sun, like they don't know to get out of the sun or whatever. They've been sitting in the sun. They're dehydrated, and then when it did you catch on to when she said when it rains, it like rehydrates them and they like come back to life? Did you
No,
is it just me or did you catch on to that?
I didn't catch on to that. Yo, man, let's be honest. There's a lot of shit that we didn't catch on to this movie already.
I told Miguel before we started filming this episode, like I feel like I need to go back and rewatch Army of the Dead. We
Yeah,
just talked about Spiral earlier. With Spiral, I felt like I feel like I had a pretty good handle on the movie all the way through. Like I could
yeah.
kind of take you through the plot. This movie, I mean, I could take you through the plot, but it was again Zack Snyder, innovative, detailed director slash writer. There was so many like different plot points to this movie. I feel like I need to go back and watch it to really catch everything.
Yeah.
I am 95% sure that she said that the zombies have dried out in the sun, but when it rains, they will like rehydrate and like come back, and then they're the shamblers, like the slow moving zombies again. Um, I kind of dug you again. Usually, I'm not really a fan of the zombies that communicate, and that kind of like are
I was kind of
like a
thrown off by
different
that.
breed.
Yeah.
Again, I was kind of thrown off, but again, in this movie, I kind of didn't mind it because, again, like you said earlier, it's a zombie movie. Who the hell cares?
Yeah.
Like, just have fun with it. Like, if you
He did a
explain
pretty
it,
good
who
job.
cares? And he really did. He did a really good job. It was interesting. It was cool. It was an interesting, different take on zombie lore. And I'm okay with that. From every now and again, I'm pretty down for that.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I wanted to talk about the actors real quick and
yeah,
see
that's
what
where
you
I was
think
going
thought about
next.
them. Mainly, I want to talk about Dave Bautista because all the other ones they're pretty good in their own right. But Dave Bautista was the one I was actually interested in because he doesn't have that much of a what's it called? He's not that diverse of an actor. You know what I mean? Like he has his usual
Yeah,
MO, like big, bulky kind of like guy with like really no emotions.
I mean, dude was a wrestler.
Yeah, he was a
You
wrestler,
know,
and and when he played Drax the Destroyer, he was a pretty like stale emotion kind of guy.
right?
You know what I mean? Like he had
Yeah,
his anger and all that. But this one right here, this movie right here, it really showed his acting chops as well because
it
it
did
showed depth, it showed emotion, and it showed it gave him more of a sense of like a human. It gave him more of a human element instead of like this big bulky superstar.
for
Like
sure.
shout out to we watched a movie. He mentioned something. He was like he said I could see Dave Batista flipping burgers at a burger joint. I
Yeah,
can't see Dwayne the Rock Johnson. I can't see John Cena
right.
flipping burgers. Like I could see Dave Batista doing it because like Dave Batista did a really good job of playing as an actor who was just real down on his luck.
He definitely humanized that character.
Yeah, he humanized
Um,
him really well.
even showing the flashbacks of when he had to kill his wife, um, when she had turned into a zombie.
Hmm.
He obviously he had seen some shit and he had gone through some drama when he was a soldier. Plus, then killing his wife and surviving the zombies the first time, and then flipping burgers. And where he was at that point in life, he was kind of broken. He didn't talk to Kate anymore. And then going back into that world and kind of resurfacing with I don't remember the lady who had the awful death scene at the elevator.
What's her name?
I don't remember what the character's name was. I'm drawing a blank. But it kind of drew up their relationship again.
Mhm.
Him and his daughter's relationship got. I mean, like it. The fact that they were going back into Vegas and they were on this mission kind of drudged up all of these other emotions and issues that Dave Bautista's character Scott has had in his life, over the last couple of years or months or however long it had been. And he did a really good job of showing that emotion. He was trying to do right by his daughter. And that was kind of the central focus of his character. He wanted to do right by his daughter. He wanted to make
Mhm.
sure that she was set up no matter what. Um, and I think his character really paid off in the end when he handed her that stack of money and he was like,
Mhm.
go do whatever you want with your life. Like I know you'll make the right choice no matter what it is.
Yeah,
Um,
I
and
was
then of
gonna.
course when that girl died, man, I was like, that was I think when the elevator opened and he turned her head and like her spinal cord popped out, I was like, oh,
Yeah,
I
I was
was like,
so
whoa.
I was so pissed because I knew that was gonna happen. Because guys, I'm on TikTok because I'm a Gen Zer, so obviously I'm on it. And I remember we were planning on watching this movie on Friday or Saturday or whenever, but I'm just flipping through TikTok and I swear to God, they are straight up savages. They show no remorse for people. They literally showed reviews of the movies and they don't mention spoilers. They don't say spoiler warning. They just go right ahead and say, okay, well, this happened, this happened, this happened, and it popped up as her death, and I was like, son of a bitch. I just closed the app and I texted Brad. I was like, okay, I got to stay off TikTok
Yeah.
until I finish the movie.
Well, I'll tell you what, that I think that was the one, even more so than Dave Batista's death. Her
Her
death was the
death,
one in the movie
yeah.
that I was like, I was sitting there watching and I was like, oh, like I was kind of like, oh crap, like I didn't expect it to happen right then. I thought there'd be a little bit of time pass where it was like,
Hmm.
hey, their relationship's getting back on track, and
Yeah,
then she would die. But it was just like you don't even get a chance to like process what they just said before she dies. And again,
I
that goes
know.
back to Dave Bautista's acting chops. I mean, I felt that, like when he was fighting the zombies and like the alpha was dodging him and stuff like that. Like I was like, whoo. Like he's pissed. Like I felt his anger and his like loss in that moment.
Yeah. You get yeah,
Dave
he's
Batista killed it in this movie. He really did.
yeah, he's gonna be one of our generation's like action stars. Like he's gonna be one of our top ones.
Yeah, I
Because
would agree with that.
if you think about it, like way back in the 90s, they had not way back, it's not too long ago. Let me not say that. but
Don't say
but
way back in the
yeah.
90s.
But I was gonna say because like back then you had Arnold
Shit, we were alive
Schwarzenegger.
in the 90s. Don't make
I
us seem
know.
that old.
But I was gonna say like back then we had Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, Tom Cruise in his prime, Brandon Fraser, and all those other action stars,
John Claude
and
Van
like
Damme. I mean,
Jean
just
Claude Van Damme. Yeah, you had
Bruce
all of
Willis.
them. Yeah, and now we're seeing all these other ones. So like Dwayne the Rock Johnson, John Cena, Dave Batista. Who else am I thinking of right now?
I think they're arguably the big three
The
right
big
now in
three, yeah.
2021. They're
Hmm.
the big three that are kind of like
Over
the
the
big
past few
like they're
years.
kind of doing it all. He's
Mhm.
doing the Disney thing with Drax, which we reported on a couple weeks ago. I think that's getting ready to end. I think he's going
Mhm.
to let his contract run out, and Drax will probably die in Guardians 3 or in Thor: Love and Thunder. Uh, but I think obviously Dave Batista was he was a WWE star. He was a pro wrestler, but I think this is kind of the start. I almost wonder if he's leaving the Marvel thing because he wants to try to diversify himself as an actor and
Oh, for
kind of do
sure.
other things. And I think this movie shows. Excuse me, my allergies are still kicking my ass. I kind of feel like this movie shows that Dave Batista is capable of doing other roles. He is capable of being the action guy and being Drax, but he's also capable of more emotional, uh, characteristic roles and
Yes.
layered roles, where
Hmm.
characters with different layers. So
Hmm.
I thought he did a really good job. And I thought the
The whole crew,
they really
for that
did.
matter, they all held their own pretty well.
They did. I mean, they all did a great job. Um, Again,
The
I need to go back and there were too many of them. It to even remember all of their names. The pilot, I thought she was really really cool.
Marianne,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
she was a
She was
badass.
fun. When they called her on the radio and he was like, "How's the helicopter doing?" and she was like, "I'm just giving it a wash and a wax right now." Just like, she was funny.
Yeah,
The locksmith was hilarious too.
Dieter,
Every time a zombie
Dieter
would
was
come, he was
great.
like, "Ah!" and he would like scream or whatever. It was really the cast. I kind of got like a Suicide Squad esque vibe from the cast. Like I really did. The way they kind of played off of each other was fun.
which
Uh,
was which 100%. This was definitely just a Suicide Squad. Like, again, sorry, spoiler, they all die,
they really
like
do.
every
They kind
single
of all
one of
die.
them. And I told Brad, I was like, this movie reminds me of Triple Frontier, which if you guys have seen Triple Frontier,
I have
it's
not
on
seen that.
it's on Netflix. It has Ben Affleck and all these other great actors, and it's pretty much the same premise. It's like these group of people that haven't seen each other for a long time. They band together to do something shady to get some cash, and it all goes to shit. Like, it just all goes to
Yeah.
shit. And it's pretty much the same premise. And I got the same emotional reaction in Triple Frontier as I did in Army of the Dead, because you grow to, because like within like the only, well, how long is this movie? Like
It was about two
two
and a half
hours?
hours
Yeah.
long. It was
Within
somewhere in
this
there.
2.5 hours, I grew to like every single one of these characters, and I was rooting for them. And I
Yeah.
knew from the start, I was like, "Yo, like at least half of them are gonna die." And then turns out all of them do.
Right.
And I would say, what's her name? The first one, not the first one, the first one of the crew to die, not the shitty security guard, but the Hispanic. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, her dude,
Yo,
her death was
her
there
death
was a
was
lot of tension in that scene. I That was one of the more
that was the most
tense. I was
badass
kind of
scene.
like on the
Yeah.
edge of my seat through that entire scene.
Hmm.
When I first saw her break through the glass, I was like, "Oh crap, she made it!" And then I realized like there were too many zombies. It was like we talked
Yeah.
about with the horde last week. Like you can't escape the horde, and
Yeah.
it was too much. And I was like, "Oh okay, like she's not
Mhm.
gonna get out." And that's another thing I wanted to bring up too. When I first watched the trailer for this movie, I was like, it looks good in the shots they showed, but I was, some of those movies that are, and I know this was in the theater for a week too, you know, a lot of films that are Netflix exclusives, or done by Netflix, uh, and I'm not sure how much of a hand Netflix had. I was hoping that the CGI and the prosthetics and things like that would look good, because let's face it, there are some zombie movies out there and there are some horror movies out
Oh,
there
I was gonna ask you that.
where it doesn't look good. Like it just
Mhm.
doesn't. When you try to CGI gore and you try to CGI blood and the makeup doesn't quite work, it's hit and miss sometimes. But the movie looked good. The
Mhm.
cinematography, the lighting, and the atmosphere that it kind of built in Las Vegas with this abandonment and things like that. I got Resident Evil Extinction vibes a little bit from it.
Mhm.
It looked really good. The tiger, the CGI on the tiger looked really good. Dude,
Yo, that
his death was bad. The
listen,
guy who stole the head,
have you
I
seen?
don't remember his name, the security detail guy. I was like,
Yeah,
whoo.
yeah, that was rough. And you know what? It reminded me of. Have you seen Annihilation with Natalie Portman?
Yes.
That that reminded me
Yeah,
of
yeah,
the
yeah.
bear. And let me tell you, not a lot of things scare me. And like like some things like okay, yeah, I'm a scared little fuck. But uh, when I saw that movie, I wasn't expecting to be like freaked out, but I was really freaked out in Annihilation when the bear scene came. I was like, oh my god! And her death in that scene was kind of the same as the lion, and I was like, oh gosh,
Yeah,
it
dude,
was
the
it was
zombie
funny.
tiger was brutal.
It wasn't funny to death, but it was funny to see the tiger like act like a tiger. Like he wasn't just like a zombie.
Yeah,
Like he
he
acted
wasn't a
just like a
zombie
big cat.
tiger. He acted like a.
It
I'm.
was
That's kind of one of those things where, like, obviously the zombies bite, like zombies bite people, they turn into zombies. Like you get
mhm.
that, but like, did the alpha bite the tiger?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Like, I guess that kind of begs that question too. The way Zack Snyder handled the lore of this movie made it really interesting. And
Yeah.
again, I'm a Romero. I don't mind if zombies run. I kind of
Yeah.
disagree with Romero's style in that sense. I don't really care whether they walk or run or stumble or whatever. Um, but I like just the flesh eating, mindless killing machine type thing with the
Mhm.
virus. That's my take on zombie. That's my favorite. But again, Zack Snyder did a good enough job with these zombies that like I kind of didn't mind it. Like it didn't bother me at all, you know? It
Yeah.
was
Like
fun.
I'm not like I wasn't a fan of the whole cuz at the moment did you get the hint that that zombie queen was pregnant? Like at the very
No.
moment. Did you not?
I
Look,
well, I
whenever
mean obviously
the
when he took like the
introduction
fetus out of her, I was like, "Oh, ugh."
no, whenever the King Alpha was introduced and they were like, doing their like Mutu thing. You remember in Godzilla versus Kong in Godzilla in the first one, whenever they were
Yeah.
there, like the Mutus were doing that.
Oh,
It was
he
kind of like
did.
that.
He like leaned
He
down and like
did
roared at
lean
her
down.
belly or
Yep.
whatever. Oh, I didn't.
I
Yeah,
was.
I
I
didn't get
saw that.
that.
I saw that, and I was like, Zach, what? A pregnant zombie?
Well, when he took the fetus out of her,
Yeah.
I was like, I don't even want to
Which,
think about that. Like that makes me
by the
uncomfortable.
way, like there's a theory going on because I want to talk about that. I want a full conversation on this whole thing because we got to mention some of the things Zack Snyder did.
The
Um,
robot thing.
no time travel or the time loop. Do you know what I'm talking about?
What do you mean? Oh,
Vanderhoof at the
where
big.
he was talking about like, what if we're caught in a time loop and we're just supposed to die over and over again?
Yeah,
I didn't really read
that
into
was
that. I thought that was just kind of the characters being the characters and interacting. I didn't read into that any more than just being a part of the plot.
well. I'm just saying. I'm sure Zack Snyder had perfect reasons to put that in there, and like, there's a theory saying like, yeah, it's a ever going time loop, and the killing of the queen and him uh removing the baby from the fetus was the moment where it broke the time loop and it became something else. That's there is a theory going around thinking about that. But again, you're pretty much just throwing darts at a dartboard because like where's it
Yeah,
gonna go?
I don't know about that.
Like
Yeah.
you don't. Yeah, but yeah, we could talk about that too. Robot zombies.
I don't okay, I don't think there was any robotic anything to that at all. I
Mm-hmm.
just questioned why, and it wasn't every single time, but there were a few times, just like in a split second, where it almost looked robotic when the zombie's skull busted, or there was kind of like a blue
Mm-hmm.
tint coming out of them, like a blue liquid or a blue goo or something like that. I didn't quite understand that either. I
Hmm.
don't know if maybe that was symbolic of like the virus or what was infecting them, or I don't know. But that was kind of interesting. I didn't really understand that. What was
Well,
your
because
take on the
like if this is
blue?
because it well, I mean, this is like it's obviously like the government fuck up.
Right,
Like, you know what I mean? Like they were
right,
transporting something out of I'm gonna say it was out of Area 51. Definitely was.
yeah.
Like 100% believe that thing was pulled out of Area 51.
It's an
And there
alien
were just so
virus.
many like hints of yeah, and there were hints of aliens and shit. And they were talking about four horsemen. You hear about that little note
Yeah,
when they were like giving the different army people different codes. And when it came down to the whole zombie thing, like there was someone saying that the government wanted to learn more about the zombies, but at a safe distance, so they made these robot zombies to infiltrate, and that's what those are, robot zombies. So like because not every zombie like
yeah. I don't.
was blue. You know what I mean?
I know. I
It
really
was
I didn't read very far into that at all. I think again, it's one of those things where like and again, that goes back to Zack Snyder's writing. You can throw little tidbits of information to make people think, to make your audience be like, oh, but what does that mean? Or what does this
yeah.
mean? What is that? But you don't have to explain
Hmm.
it. And again, you don't have to, in a horror movie especially, you don't have to explain every little thing because part of the ambiguity and part of the mystery is what makes it scary. It's what makes it interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with not really. We know it's a government thing. We know the government screwed up somehow and they created the zombie virus and blah 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 blah. You don't have to explain it. I don't need it to make sense. I really didn't read too far into the blue goo or the zombie thing. I just or the robot zombie thing. I didn't read too far into it, but I mean, overall, I thought it was a really fun movie. Again, I kind of can't wait to watch it again, and to kind of see what else I pull from it, and to see uh, I want to see what else I can get out of it, and
Yeah.
to watch it to process it again. I think I need a second watch to kind of like process the entire thing again. But
Yeah. And also to catch some things here and there. Here's
right.
here's a big question for you. Do you think this was the Snyder cut of this movie?
Oh yeah, Netflix said it's the Snyder. Like Netflix, they were kind of savage because Netflix tweeted
Yeah.
out they were like, "This is the Snyder cut, by the way. Like
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
his
Yeah.
movie," which is
Yeah.
kind of cool.
I
Uh,
thought that was a little like
yeah.
petty thing they did, but that was
No,
that was
but
a
it
little
was cool.
funny.
I thought it was
Yeah.
dope. I will say I wanted to bring this up too. I wasn't wild about the ending. For me,
Yeah.
I think the main film could have ended with Kate sitting there crying with the helicopter coming down with the nuked Vegas in the background, and that's where the credits could begin to roll. And then maybe 30, 45 seconds into the credits, you get the other guy coming up out of the safe with the money, and then maybe he gets in the car and he drives away, and that could have been the end. That could have
Yeah.
been. I would have been completely fine with that being the post credit scene. Um, I wasn't wild about the fact that it showed him being bit on the plane. I felt even him when he had the money, even going and renting the plane kind of felt weird to me. Like
Yeah.
I feel like what we had seen his character do and the way we had seen his character act throughout the movie, I kind of just felt like that was uncharacteristic for him. And I just showing him being bitten in the mirror, it just kind of like
It was like it was
it just
ba-
kind of didn't
it
do
was
it for
just
me. I
throw
was
it
like,
was just
why?
it was just throwing away like a sequel right there. And
Yeah,
that's just a
and
thing. That's the thing like every director's now is kind of guilty for is like their goal is to make a sequel. And
right,
yeah, it's just it kind of throwaways from the whole aspect of it, which is why uh people weren't a fan of the ending of Godzilla versus Kong because they didn't like the way it ended because it was just done.
right,
There was no post credit scene or anything. It was just like, okay, they fought and they're done. Like everyone was thinking, was there going to be a sequel? But the director, I think it's Adam Wingard, he said, I'm not like when I made this movie, I wasn't anticipating a sequel. I just wanted to
yeah.
make this movie. I wanted there to
You
be a
just want to
clear
make a good
winner.
monster movie,
I wanted to be a clear winner and just show the ending of it. That was it. I didn't want to
right?
show any more universe building. And those type of movies I actually like because I don't know, it doesn't seem like a throwaway kind of movie because the thing I always talk about with Marvel now is when you watch the older previous movies, you kind of just want to watch it and just see and just like kind of like go through the series to watch it as a story as a whole and not watch the movie as for what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so that was one thing. I didn't really like how they kind of hinted the fact that another virus could come around like New Mexico because that's where the plane was going.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, it's just it would have been a lot better. The emotion would have been a lot more heavy if it ended with just what's her name?
With Kate.
Kate just in there crying and helicopters
Yeah.
coming. Ended right there, that would have made it emotional already. But with some, obviously zombie stuff. And yeah, I mean, I think if a sequel does come, I mean, it probably won't be as it won't hold as much as weight. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's kind of my thing is like, we talked about this kind of being Suicide Squad esque, where most of the characters die. Like, if you have what's his name who was bit at the end, and he becomes the new Alpha, and you're in Mexico City, and it's the same kind of thing, and maybe Kate is the one who has to go in and try to like kill him and stop the zombies.
You can't like I can't imagine a
Okay,
story. Yeah.
but like you're kind of just like you said earlier, you're just throwing darts at the wall. Like,
Hmm.
I don't really think there was and again, that's why I feel like that could have been, you could have ended it with Kate and then showed him maybe halfway through the credits or so
I was surprised he
escaping. I
survived.
know, escaping with the money.
Dead
I
ass.
don't really see how he could have survived since it was a nuke because of all the radiation and stuff, but
Well, no,
again, it's a
it
movie,
wasn't
you can suspend your disbelief a little
it
bit.
wasn't even that. It was the fact that, Dieter, which by the way, I love Dieter so much. Dieter was my favorite.
Was he the locksmith?
Yeah. He was hilarious.
he was
he was
he
like
was awesome.
he's like, I shot him 3 times. And then the other guy was like, actually shot him four. And there was one that really made me laugh. It was whenever Guzman and Dieter and the other guy was going down the elevator and they opened the door and there's zombies. And Guzman was like, "Ah, su puta madre," and just like started shooting. I was like, "That's fucking hilarious." I love that
Yeah.
comedic element right there. But at the end, whenever it was Dieter and I'm gonna get his name. Hold the fuck up.
I
The
know. I
black
can't
fellow,
remember. I can't remember. I
Vanderho,
cannot.
Vanderho.
Yes, I can't
Okay,
remember I couldn't
Dieter.
remember what his name was.
When Dieter and Vanderho were about to just go toe to toe with the Alpha, which by the way, I was like, oh come on, like at least give him some other type of death because I couldn't imagine like Vanderho like going toe to toe with an Alpha zombie.
Right.
But yeah, whenever Dieter like was pushing him into the safe and shutting the door, I thought he was just shutting the door on him for death because like he shut the door and you remember what he said, like one more try and the thing is locked forever.
Yep.
So it was that moment I was like, then how did he get out? He should have been locked in there forever. You know what I mean?
Again, you just got to suspend your
Yeah,
disbelief a little
yeah,
bit. You
yeah. I
kind of got to
gotcha.
take it at face value for what it
Hmm.
is. Um,
My dad, I remember my dad came by and he like caught some of that scenes, and he was getting a little frustrated because every time the Alpha put the helmet on and they were shooting his head, and my dad was like, why did they just aim low? I'm like, it's a zombie.
you got to
Doesn't
shoot him
matter
in
if
the
you
head or it doesn't work.
yeah, if you shoot him in the he's not gonna
Right.
feel that shit, not at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, suspend any type of disbelief. Great movie. Um, how would you rank this one? I'll
I,
show
I'm
you. I'll
I'm
show you
gonna
mine if you show me yours.
I'm I'm gonna give this a 6.5 too. Same as
Really?
Spiral. Yeah, same as Spiral that we just talked about. It was fun. It didn't blow me away. It wasn't anything crazy. But again, it's rewatchable. I thought it was
Hmm.
a really fun, good time, and I had a great time watching it. It was really cool. I just it again. It wasn't over the top, but I genuinely enjoyed it. I really thought it was a fun movie. And again, I've said it probably 5 or 6 times now. I mean, I'm really excited to go back and rewatch it
Hmm.
just because I want to kind of dive into it again and see what else I can pull out. And I don't know, I could go up to a 7 or a 7.5 depending on how much I like it around the second time. But I think right now it's sitting at about a 6.5 for me.
I was gonna go with a 7, and I'm probably gonna stick with a 7, even though if I rewatch it.
Yeah.
I think off the back, like this was definitely a 7 type of movie. I mean, it was good for what it was. Obviously, zombie flick, and it surpassed any type of norms of a typical zombie, which kind of gives it a bump up. And just the emotional pull that this movie kind of had, or it tried to have, because even though it was like emotional, even though I was emotionally invested, um, a usual moviegoer wouldn't feel the same way, because it's
Yeah.
like it's emotion. It has some emotional elements, but it doesn't like it's not gonna pull everyone tight. So like
Right.
it's yeah, it's just a straight 7 for me. I would give it a 7.
For sure.
Mhm.
Again, both of them were really fun movies. I enjoyed the hell out of both of them. But guys, that is going to do it for episode 22 of Let's Talk Movies. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let us know what you thought of Spiral and Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead. We thought these were two really fun movies. Be sure to leave us a comment if you're watching on YouTube, or if you're listening on Spotify or any of the other podcast platforms, tweet at us at We Talk the Movies. We want to know what you think. Next week in episode 23 of Let's Talk Movies, we're talking Bob Clark's 1974 cult classic, Black Christmas, and its unofficial sequel, It's Me, Billy, written by, directed by, produced by Dave McRae and Bruce Dale, and that is going to be a fun time. It's Me, Billy drops this Friday, May 28th on YouTube, and we're going to be talking those two films next week, and we're going to continue our little horror trend with that. Miguel's never seen Black Christmas. I've seen it 2 or 3 times, but it's been a little while, so that'll be a fun watch. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at We Talk the Movies, and we'll catch y'all later. Peace.
Peace.